Hello and thank you for tuning in to this very special edition of the Property Guide in ET Now. It's an exciting time for investors of the real estate market and the stock market. Analysts agree that both of these markets are poised for a long-term bull run. How can you profit from this run? If you have any feedback or questions about buying a home, write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen and you can reach me personally on Twitter as well. On the show this week, we finally have a new government in Maharashtra. How will this impact the real estate sector in the state? We'll find out. We'll also talk about the new FDI norms released by the central government on construction. Will it make your home cheaper to buy? And we'll answer questions you sent in about investing in Mumbai and Bangalore. Right, joining us in the studios today, Ravi Ahuja, Executive Director, Cushman, Wakefield, India. Ashutosh, Limaye, thank you so much for coming in. And of course, Arvind, Nandan. I'm so glad to have all three of you here because it is an exciting week. And I know that sentiment has been really positive as well after the new government took oath. And for those of our viewers who want a quick update, the BJP's remarkable show in Maharashtra, we now have a new state government led by the new Chief Minister, Devendra Fadnavis. The state government is likely to fuel a fresh lease of life really to the infrastructure projects across all sectors in the state that was sort of stalled. With the BJP government both in Delhi and in the state, we expect them to work more closely together now. So we expect infrastructure projects to speed up, bottlenecks to be cleared up, and of course, as a result, the real estate sector might begin ticking again. Our focus today is on the cities of Mumbai, Pune and Nagpur. Gentlemen, let's start with Mumbai. Obviously, one of the things we saw in Mumbai was the delayed infrastructure. There's an airport that was waiting. There's a harbour link that's waiting. There's a lot of infrastructure that Mumbai desperately needs, connecting it to its satellite townships, for example. Do we expect this to speed up? Ashutosh, how long do you think it's going to be before we start hearing those, those positive remarks coming in from the state government?
I think it will be now moving pretty fast. I think the new CM has made it very clear that the priority will be infrastructure. And all those projects which were delayed definitely will get now priority. And with that, we will see more land being opened up towards construction, particularly for housing purpose. The problem with Mumbai was the supply was pretty tight because of the physical constraint and lack of infrastructure. I think with new infrastructure projects and the existing ones getting actually finally in the implementation mode, we will now open up large tracts of land towards the periphery. Give
me a list of projects that you expect will be put on, the fast track right now.
I think for the BMC region, it will be the Metro Phase 3, which is the Seeps Kolaba Metro, that will get priority. Rehabilitation of the residents or the slum dwellers of the airport land will get priority. And the Trans-Harbour Sea Link, which will open up new access to Navi Mumbai area, which also be linking the second new airport which is proposed. So I would list these three projects to get priority.
Ravi, one of the things that's unique about the state of Maharashtra is that we actually have a real estate regulated bill that might, it's in the end stages. Do you expect it to be tweaked at this point? Do you expect the new government to maybe pull it back, look at it one more time, deliberate one more time with the industry before it passes through?
I think the industry has been through a lot of iterations on this bill, and just on 10th of October was the last deadline for submission of final observations, which has already happened. I may not rule out that the government may want to have a quick look, but there's not much left. There's been a lot of deliberation, and I personally feel that this would see light of the day very soon, probably within a quarter or so.
In fact, Arvind, one of the problems that all developers have been complaining about is the fact that it takes so long to get clearances, and that delays projects and that increases costs. Because a lot of these clearances are state subjects, taxes are also state subjects. This is another thing that the developers have been complaining about, that the taxes are just too high. Do you expect any of that to be relooked at this point?
In fact, I do. And Mr. Fadnavis, first of all, he needs to be congratulated for a good comprehensive win and probably getting a very long-term mandate. But what I heard in one of the interviews was that he said for certain segments of real estate, particularly in the affordable housing, which is going to be a primary focus for the government, he said the responsibility for clearances should be the government's, should be the systems rather than the party seeking clearances. I think that's a very, very positive statement to make. So if the government takes the onus on itself that for such segments or such projects, they will actually be on the front foot giving clearances, that's important. The second thing which I also heard from him was that the government actually wants to give some kind of a right to service to the consumers of real estate. Now that again is a very, very positive move. So if these two things which he had initially said are implemented, then I think a lot of what you said is going to be automatically taken care.
So there's no indication there that taxes might come down, whether it is the local taxes or the state taxes on.
Well, not yet. No pronouncement as yet, but I think we need to give them time. Unless they freeze a policy or frame a policy, one can't really expect.
If I were to ask you to look across the state as a map and tell us which cities or which towns or which townships you believe will benefit the most from corridors now moving forward.
So clearly the established corridor of the DMIC, which is already now under construction and in a way under development, is going to reap the biggest benefit because they have been under planning stage and now implementation stage as we speak. The government has announced that they intend identifying 3 or 4 pockets between this corridor as establishment of new smart cities. We've also seen the definition of smart cities, and hopefully we will see a lot of these coming up in this corridor. Secondly, I think if the government does well on the NH9 of creating and widening the highway project, which runs through Mumbai, Pune, and then connects with the Andhra and Telangana region and south, I think that entire corridor will see a lot of other smart city springing up as we go along. When we hear such projects taking shape, we will see these developments.
Actually, Ashutosh, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, just wanted to add to what Ravi just mentioned. I think another corridor that is promising to me is the Nagpur corridor, and Nagpur actually services to both Madhya Pradesh as well as to Chhattisgarh, agriculturally, industrially, trade and commerce wise. And now all these 3 states are run by the same party. So we expect better collaboration. So we will expect the Nagpur-Raipur corridor and the Nagpur-Sivni-Jabalpur corridor to be developed equally well as the case is for the DMIC corridor.
Right, since you brought up Nagpur, I'm going to ask you as well, because I hear you just came back from Nagpur last week, because we know that there was a call for a separate state of Vidarbha. We know that Devendra Fadnavis was one of the strongest voices in that call. How do you expect this to play out? And even if it doesn't, what would it mean for the city of Nagpur now that it has a chief minister from that city?
I think Maharashtra has a great opportunity to create a power corridor, not just literally but figuratively as well. What I would imagine is a corridor which is a triangle between Mumbai, Pune, going south, and connecting Nagpur, all 3 connected with each other. And the northern corridor, of course, would encompass Nasik and Aurangabad as well. Like the previous BJP government worked on a golden quadrilateral for India, I think this government within the state has a great opportunity to create this triangular power corridor in the state. Nagpur, Vidarbha is actually a very useful coal belt. Western coal fields are there. So it automatically is a source of power, not just for the state, but for a lot of other places. Rather than thinking of, splitting this in 2 states and then again struggling to, find the right kind of a grid in those states, if this stays as one, and you create this grid, I think you have created a unique proposition in India. No other state has it.
Let's also quickly talk about Pune. Now, we know Pune over the last couple of years benefited from the fact that Hyderabad was in the middle of that whole political confusion, and Pune has really managed to attract a lot of this spillover IT business from Bangalore. Going forward, what can this government proactively do to take Pune to the next level? Because it's already galloping on its own, but what can the government do to push it a little further?
I think 2-3 things the government can do. One is to proactively create the infrastructure which will lead to a lot of growth in the future, rather than waiting for Pune to overbuild and then create a complication of how do we bring in infrastructure. So for example, Pune, if the proposed metro is looked at more seriously and rather implemented, so that in about 3 to 5 years time we will see the light of the day of the metro in Pune city. Further, I think the Pune International Airport, which has been a huge talk for so many years, it's about time the government seriously starts implementing that project, and we see Pune gets connected on the international scenario as well.
Ashutosh, tell me this, and I want to ask all 3 of you the same question. Looking at Maharashtra right now as an entire map, if I walked into your office tomorrow and told you that I want to make an investment based on all of this optimism, give me a very specific answer of which city, which neighborhood, and what sort of an investment in real estate you recommend I make.
From a perspective of residential properties, I would say that Pune, followed by Nagpur, would be the 2 cities where I would be certainly interested in. And multiple factors. The entry barrier is reasonable. The growth prospects are quite visible. And in the short to near term, I can see property prices appreciating rationally.
I'm going to hold you at gunpoint. When you say Pune, give me a neighborhood and tell me why.
I would look at two neighborhoods for Pune. One is the Hinjawadi corridor, which is the western suburbs, and the other is the Nagar Road corridor. Both are driven by IT, but they don't really depend on IT that much because the feeder industry is also well supported there. Both have very good infrastructure, very good social infrastructure, where the Pune is known for its quality of life and standard of living. So it's a great mix of employment opportunities, good standard of living, social infrastructure, and a peaceful environment.
Arvind, are you going to go back to your maple leaf of Pune, or do you think that there are better options?
Thank you for saying that. I was actually thinking in those terms. To my mind, the stem of the maple leaf, which is the southern corridor of Pune, is where I like to invest. If I'm a pure investor who's looking to make an appreciation on my investment, so I would go there. I would choose probably a Kothurud or a Kondwa. I'll probably choose an IBM road, Undri, Pisoli, something like that. If I'm a futuristic investor. If I go to Nagpur, Nagpur again is a very strange city. You know, it's a radial city. The eastern corridor is pretty okay. The southwestern corridor, which is going to Yavatmal and Wardha, the Wardha road, is actually doing quite well. So these are the two corridors where you like to invest. To my mind personally, Nagpur is a place where you will have to look at safer options rather than a very futuristic option, because things haven't taken shape in the past for you to have a foresight. I would rather stick with something close to the airport. I would be in the vicinity of the airport, about say 3 or 4 kilometers radius, and I would invest in those areas. Those areas are actually developing quite okay. If you come to Bombay, then you have a very, very complex situation. Probably Ravi will deal with it in more detail, but to my mind, again, I will go to those places which are not yet up on the curve. I would stick with far off places like Ulve, Kamote, in the vicinity of Panvel, not going into the Panvel area, because that again has already heated up. So I'll just stay outside Panvel and invest there, wait for another 8-9 years, and then like to see.
But before we go into break, you already gave us your picks for Pune. Anything else you want to add to your list?
I think when we speak about Nagpur, another opportunity that we will get is the city-centric areas, or the prime areas will now get transformed with redevelopment of projects. I think what we see in Mumbai and Pune city cores, now we'll see in Nagpur. So far, Nagpur has not had too many of reputed developers showcasing their products. There were far and few in between. I expect a lot of redevelopment to happen in prime areas, and prime areas mean that lesser risk because they are already established. But in terms of the quality of product and the positioning of product, we will see a completely different real estate market there in Nagpur. So it's not only restricted to new areas which will give you good returns, but the existing city-centric areas, redevelopment potential will also give a lot of opportunities.
So a good word then for anybody who has a home in Nagpur looking to sell would be to wait a couple of years and see how things change? Would be a better market for sellers?
It depends on the location, really speaking. So,
okay, all right. Yeah. So there you have it, choices between Pune, Nagpur and of course Mumbai. Now that we have a new state government in place, we're going to go into a quick break. If you have questions about anything you heard, write to us. Email ID is at the bottom of your screen. When we come back, we'll talk about the new FDI norms relaxed by the central government for construction and what it means to you and me as home buyers. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide in ET Now. Our guests are all still with us, helping us make smart decisions when it comes to buying property. Now, a new FDI policy on construction was approved by the Union Cabinet last week. The central government has relaxed the rules for FDI, of foreign direct investment, in the construction sector. Now, it's reduced the minimum built-up area from 50,000 square feet, what it was, to 20,000 square feet now. It's also brought down the minimum capital requirement from $10 million to $5 million. And in the case of developments of service plots, it has reduced the minimum requirement of land from 10 acres to no requirement at all. What does this mean for us as home buyers? Ashutosh, does this mean that it will be easier for developers, first of all, to raise money? Will this mean that they'll finish projects faster, perhaps on time?
Yes, I think it will be a great help for developers who require money, whose projects are stuck for lack of finance. But more than that, I think it will be now the city-centric areas where the density is high, the plot sizes are small, and which were not really getting the attraction of foreign direct investment because of the sheer short size of it, small size of it. I think that will get prominence. I think the projects that are getting that were delayed will get completed with this additional finance, and I think the developers will now be able to see greater flexibility to dilute their stake whenever they invite participation from private equity funds. On the flip side of it, different private equity funds can come together and de-risk their investment by coming together and investing in a smaller proportion. Still, the project will get the same kind of amount invested. So I think overall good for the industry, good for the residential buyers, because it will improve the liquidity situation to a great extent.
Ravi, does an improved liquidity situation at all translate into lower prices?
Well, lower prices is something I don't know right now, but the government has permitted FDI into, let's say, a project which has 30% of affordable housing. It has exempted the FDI limits as well in terms of both the capitalization, which is now 5 million, but you don't need that if you have 30% of your project providing affordable housing, and neither does it stipulate any size of the project. And that's a great move for the affordable side, and therefore that will see low cost of capital coming into affordable housing, which will lead to price reduction, and therefore developer may pass on that and create low pricing.
Arvind, now with more foreign funds coming into India, looking for investment opportunities, will it force our developers even more to become more transparent, to be able to have attractive, projects in terms of transparency, which, foreign investors, we know is the top of their ask, that they want something that's transparent. Will it force transparency?
On the face of it, very simply, it does appear that that will be the consequence. However, there are certain other problems. When we speak of FDI and this changed scenario of FDI, we first need to look into the question as to why this was to be done. We've had this FDI, permitted for several years, but over the years it started to become less and less and less for various reasons, economic reasons, industry reasons, etc. The government actually saw that it was reducing, it was tapering off, and they've removed one roadblock. But the problem is that there's another roadblock in front of that. You've removed a roadblock, which is you've lowered the limits, so FDI can actually come into projects which are in the city rather than in the large land parcels, etc. The other roadblock is the money comes in, the developer gets it, and then what happens? Your question of why does the pricing not change is related to that, because the money actually then starts going into all unwanted or undesirable places. You have to block that. So the second roadblock is you need to clear your system first. You need to make your transparency, your process all very, very clear. Only then will it impact the pricing. Only then will the developer be forced or be willing on his own to make himself more transparent. Unless you've done both the things simultaneously, rather than blocking off one and doing the other, it will not work.
All right, so FDI is, of course, a really positive thing, but we're going to have to see how that plays out, because we'll have to read the fine print when it does come out. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll answer the questions you sent in about Mumbai and Bangalore. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching The Property Guide on ET Now. Thank you for staying with us. Let's quickly answer some questions. Dev Datta has written in. He wants to buy a 3-bedroom home in either Thane or Mulund with a budget of 2 to 2.10 crore rupees. Please give me some good options. That's a good budget then for Mulund or for Thane. Ashutosh, any options there that you would recommend that he bets that money on?
I think it's a problem of plenty. In that budget, there are plenty of options available both in Mulund as well as in Thane. And rather than naming specific projects, if we were to see what are the developers who are active in those markets, and they are all reputed developers with good track record, be it Rustomji, Lodha, Dosti, Tata Housing with Richa, the project in Mulund, Hiranandani, Brahmand, lots of them say it.
So give him a checklist to narrow down that choice then, if he was to choose from all of these. So reputation is obviously, not in question here. What else should he keep in mind when choosing?
I think it is the usual checklist of where the place of work is going to be and the family's requirements once the bread earner is out to the office. Fortunately, Thane as well as Mulund have a very good social infrastructure. I think it's only about the commuting that will now be the deciding factor whether to opt for Mulund, which eliminates the toll naka for the daily commute, versus Thane.
All right, so choose based on how much time you're going to have to spend in your car every day, which we'll know in Mumbai is a fairly large decision-making aspect. Let's take another question. Nalini Kanta has written in from Bangalore, looking to buy a property for end use in Bangalore with a budget of 40 to 50 lakh rupees. Confused about which area to choose because all of them are growing so well. Please give me some places in Bangalore for my future needs like work, school, college, healthcare, all of which are easily accessible. But Ravi, she hasn't given us a specific area that she needs to travel to right now. So she's left that open. In terms of social infrastructure and the budget that she specified. What in Bangalore do you think makes sense at this point?
And also maybe the growth. And therefore, I think there are 2 or 3 directions in Bangalore one could choose from. North Bangalore, as we know, has been a great growth corridor ever since the international airport has come. One could easily look at the east, where you have Whitefield. That's another location which is self-sustained in terms of social infrastructure and now well connected. The peripheral ring road will also do a fair bit of decongestion to Whitefield. And given this budget of 40-50 lakhs, she could easily get a house in that location. Or southeast for that matter, but a little more distant into Sarjapur Road, probably will get her there.
All right, so the great thing about Bangalore is that you can find homes in almost every price bracket. Let's take another question. Manju has written in, planning to buy a 2-bedroom flat in Bangalore purely as an investment, budget of 40 to 50 lakh rupees. Please give me any area that you suggest where the scope of return is higher. Also, I want a good builder in that area. Arvind?
I would probably extend what Ravi was saying. Bangalore has multiple pockets. It's one of those happy situations where you have several pockets within the city. But from the question, what I decipher is that the person is looking to invest and then looking to wait on the investment for it to grow. She basically wants to grow it, he or she. To my mind, again, of several locations, I will choose the northern block. And when I say northern block, I mean Hebal, Hennur, Thani Sandra Road. I would go slightly, I'll go to 1010. And I'll probably choose an HBR layout as well, although you may not find ready options, or you can actually do your own search in the market. But look at these places. I would stay away from Hebal because Hebal is already very high up on the pricing. Unless you are a 2 crore plus kind of an investor, it's very difficult to find a good project there. For a 40-50 lakh, I would rather stick with Tanisandra Road, Hennur, and these quadrants. These are the places where you invest today, you wait 5-6 years, and you are very likely to double your investment as well. So go to these places. There are quite a few good projects. There is Mantris, there is even Kolte Patil's Raga there. Mantri Web City is a good project. So you'll have to do a micro search in that area, but look at this quadrant is what I feel.
All right, so obviously there is a consensus about the fact that that area of Bangalore is possibly where you'll get the best returns and also get the best social infrastructure. We've run out of time. If you have questions for any of the gentlemen on the show, write to us. Email ID is at the bottom of your screen. Thank you so much, each of you, for coming in and sharing your thoughts. And of course, thank you so much for watching.